All right, so it looks like we're going to move forward to the first panel discussion of the day. This is the Trailblazers of Entrepreneurship in the Black community. I'm going to welcome to the stage our moderator for this panel, Farley Flex, who is a media consultant and community leader, the CEO of Plasma Management and Productions, and partner at Urban Rez Solutions Inc. And they will be introducing the panel speakers this afternoon. We would also like to thank the sponsors for this panel, Pan-African Credit Union. But let's get started with the panel discussion, Trailblazers of Entrepreneurship in the Black community.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Okay, that was about 38%. Good morning, everyone. Okay, 74%. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we're still hovering around 80. Good morning, everyone. This side is weak. You guys are still sleeping over here. And you're closest to the coffee, too. Good morning, everyone. Much better. There's a level of enthusiasm that's required here today. An enthusiasm for Black people, an enthusiasm for change, an enthusiasm for entrepreneurship. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No. Am I wrong? No. Okay. All right, so we're talking about trailblazing. I'm going to just extend this a little bit. We're talking about trailblazing and entrepreneurship, critical to our path ahead. Right now, when we think about entrepreneurs, oftentimes from a practical standpoint and also from an infrastructural standpoint, many of us look at it as a somewhat unidimensional type of perspective, like I have my own business. Right? But every business and every aspect of collaboration needs infrastructure, right? So the panelists we have today represent the infrastructure. We have two in body, I believe, and one, yes, two in body and one virtually, right? And they represent part of the infrastructure that entrepreneurship depends upon in our particular circumstance in this hemisphere, right? We have, right now, there's a level of dependency on public funding. We want to get to a point of interdependency where we're bringing something to the table, okay? And the entrepreneurship path is what brings something to the table that can effectively represent those who come after us, because we have to also remember from a lineage standpoint and an intergenerational wealth standpoint, what we're trying to do here is set up or pave a road for those that come after us. It's not about us, okay? So once we recognize and accept that, all right, can I get a I agree? I agree? I absolutely agree. Okay, awesome. That's better. I didn't even realize I hit the mic down. Okay, so to introduce our panelists, I'm going to get them to give you details on their bios, if you will, individually. But I'll certainly introduce them by name and by my familiarity with them. So first and foremost, we have Miss Rosemarie Powell. And Rosemarie is here, I assume, right? Is Rosemarie here? I don't think I've seen her yet. Any verification on that, on Rosemarie's presence? I don't see a body. No, she's not here yet? Okay. Is she en route? Young man? No, she's not en route. Okay. That's okay. We're good. But I'll tell you about Rosemarie nonetheless. Rosemarie runs an organization called the Toronto Community Benefits Network. She has an incredible program called Next Gen, which introduces BIPOC individuals. Yeah, just dipping once in a while there. Yeah, there you go. BIPOC individual entrance into the trades. So she's lobbied along with several partners to ensure that things like the crosstown rail and those such that run through the neighborhoods where many of us live also include opportunities for young people and people who are considered marginalized in the trades. So that'd be women, indigenous, and like I said, BIPOC individuals get access to getting involved in training and becoming apprentices and ultimately journey persons in the trade. I'm a big fan of Rosemarie's. I wish she was here, but hopefully she'll get here shortly. Our second panelist is Mr. Craig Wellington. Right, Craig will make his way up. So again, part of a very important pillar in the infrastructure on the path to entrepreneurship. Craig, I'll get you to expound on your your bio, like in real time. We could do that right now. And listen closely, right? As Isaac said quite articulately, this is an opportunity to network. And the old adage, your network is your net worth. Okay, so do not leave the room without either exchanging information with the individuals that we're highlighting today and with each other, of course. So Craig, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit of your bio, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Farley. And there we go. Usually people are trying to tell me to keep quiet, not speak up. Yeah, so I'm Craig Wellington. I'm the Executive Director of the Black Opportunity Fund. And Black Opportunity Fund is an organization, a registered national charity, community-driven charity that has a laser-like focus on one issue. It is on accessing capital to fund sustainable initiatives for Black community in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of funding not-for-profits and charities, Black-led, Black-serving, Black-focused not-for-profits, charities, and so on. And our focus is to access capital through a number of means, whether through corporate Canada, through government, through philanthropy, and release that because we feel that there is the significant issue that our community faces is equal access to opportunity, equal access to capital. So we have a laser-like focus on going upstream and trying to solve problems there. A lot of organizations. Okay,
don't give me your whole story now, bro.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have a conversation.
All right.
Right? Yeah, just your bio. Where were you born? How old are you? No, I'm just joking.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, Craig Wellington, I started with the organization a year ago. I have a history of working in community, in advocacy, in not-for-profits, working in a range of whether the entrepreneurship space, corporations, marketing, government, education. So this kind of pulls all of that together. I'm from Jamaica. I migrated to Canada in grade 9 of the year, and I've been involved in advocacy here since then. I mean, 4 years after moving to Canada, I sued Square One Shopping Mall right here right across here, and their security company, Hammerson, for racial harassment because I was too stupid to know that a new immigrant with no money couldn't take on a $1 billion enterprise and win. So because I was so stupid, I did it. And then we took that to the Human Rights Commission and had a change to the Trespass to Property Act. So
beautiful.
So I'm always about that individual advocacy, and I think that's an important piece.
Okay, my brother, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and one additional panelist, Ms. Tiffany Calendar. And Tiffany is going to join us, as you can tell, virtually and share with us what her work is and her passion for entrepreneurship as well. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear me? Perfect. Fantastic. So my name is Tiffany Calendar, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Federation of African Canadian Economics, coming to you virtually from Montreal. So I'm very glad to join this morning so that we can talk about entrepreneurship and the different programs and organizations that are there to support these businesses, Black businesses across the country, to access capital. Our program is a $160 million fund across 3 partners, the federal government, the BDC, and 2 credit unions, Alterna and Van City. Our organization celebrated its 1-year anniversary on the 31st of May. So as a new organization creating infrastructure to address the barrier to accessing capital, we're very glad to serve Black Canadians and be a part of this event, which is about really building networks to support our community. So very glad to join you this morning.
Awesome. And great to have you both. So we're going to talk about trailblazing and entrepreneurship. And I think the focus here really is, as I often say, we have to recognize the gap. You heard Isaac mention the term gap as well. So there are specific gaps that have been caused, we know historically, by the transatlantic slave trade, by colonization. And our goal now is to fill those gaps. Attack the gap on offense, fill the gap on defense. I'm a sports guy, so I'm going to use sports references. So one of the understandings is, as I said initially, is that entrepreneurs tend to think about like it's kind of a DIY approach, do it yourself, right? But that's not necessary, right? We recognize that while they're not necessarily reparations or reparative measures, there is an understanding that anti-Black racism has not only suffocated our potential in terms of business, but it's also shallowed the pool of resources from a supply chain standpoint and so on and so forth. So having organizations like the Black Opportunity Fund, like FACE, like Next Gen that Rosemarie represents, is important for people to just not get a hand out, but get a hand up. Critical distinction, okay? So we want to move from, I guess you could call it, do it for me to do it yourself, but with the proper support and base and foundation and infrastructural foundation that these organizations can represent. So I'll just facilitate some questions, right? And if you folks can, first and foremost, now you can elaborate on the fund. Right? Now you can elaborate on the fund, its purpose, some of the dynamics involved, the requirements, which is what I'm sure most folks are curious about. What are the criteria that are necessary to be eligible? And I think we've got to be really transparent, really candid, and really honest about where we sit as entrepreneurs in our readiness. That's another key term today. How ready are we to receive support from organizations such as these? That's the critical thing that we need to self-actualize, in my opinion. Okay? So I'll start with you, Craig.
Yeah.
Tiffany, we'll get to you in a second.
Absolutely, and great to share space with you as usual, Tiffany, my friend. We are the collaboration piece that was mentioned earlier by Isaac is also critical. As we've said, collaborating in this space is important. We're in the same game, using your analogy. We have the same goal, so we all need to work together. We need to collaborate. So FACE is a collaborative. We reach out to FACE, we connect with Tiffany, reach out to Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, reach out to all of the other organizations working in the space, and that's how collectively we will have greater impact. So Black Opportunity Fund, again, was started with a goal, as I said, of addressing social and economic lack of opportunity, barriers to opportunity, and dismantling the impacts of anti-Black racism. So we have a number of initiatives that we have launched over the last year through partnerships. We now have partnerships with 4 of the 6 major banks, and we're working on the next dominoes as well. So we have, I mentioned, one of our significant focuses is entrepreneurship. So we are working in partnership with several banks on their Black entrepreneur loan program, making sure that they are looking at their ratios, making it easier for Black entrepreneurs to get access to capital. But the gap in terms of, and what we're all finding is that there's a gap in terms of that readiness piece. So that is something that we're also addressing. So with a program that we have through a partnership with CIBC is making funding available, making capacity building available for Black entrepreneurs who have been turned down for lending by traditional banks, by financial institutions over the last year. So directing them into these new Black entrepreneur lending programs by the banks with these new ratios. But again, if they're unable to get this funding, that we look at what are the reasons and how do we fix those reasons to ensure that whether it is financial literacy, whether it is developing a business plan, and we have the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce as a partner with that, with the program that we have in place with funding from CIBC, because we recognize the pain point that organizations have when you're told, go do some workshop, go do some training, which is absolutely necessary, but that is time that you're taking away from running your business. Or if you're pre-revenue, that's time you're taking away from the job that you're doing, which is paying the bills before you have revenue. So in fact, if you are registered for these programs, through our partnership with Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, we actually provide funding for the organizations, non-repayable funding, to help as they go through that journey as well. We will be launching our own loan program, which we will be launching the first week of August to provide lending. And as part of that, we will also be looking at revolving credit lines built into that, which is a massive gap right now. So we are looking at that. We will be launching our investment program looking into Black entrepreneurs later this year as well.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you there because I know you know Rosemary's not here and you're gonna take full advantage of that. I know you know. Anyway, so we want to look at this directly in the face, and who better to talk about face than Miss Tiffany Calendar. Tiffany, we're gonna ask you to share with us, similar to what Craig presented, just some of the dynamics of face, and then the next phase of questioning will be around criteria. I think folks say criteria is critical to you, I assume, right? You want to know, how do I access the fund? Hands in the air, feet in the air, something? A little bit of response. The sleepy side, everybody over here, right? You want to know how to qualify. Would that be a correct assumption on my part? Pardon me? Okay, got to up the enthusiasm, people. You know me. Okay, so Tiffany, please tell us about FACE, the dynamics of the operation itself, and as I said, in phase 2 of questioning, we'll talk about the qualification criteria. Okay, so Tiffany, please go ahead.
Thank you. So the first thing that I wanted to comment on that you made in terms of entrepreneurs and the DIY, so the do-it-yourself, I think that entrepreneurship necessitates that, but I think where the Black community could get the most support is to understand that other entrepreneurs are parts of networks that give them access to not just capital, but information, support, and being able to build relationships that'll help them to build not only the infrastructure, but the capacity to run their business. So really the opportunity that a lot of these organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs, whether it's from the financial sphere or from in terms of capacity building, that's really what we're allowing entrepreneurs in our community to be able to do. And the good news is that there are people in our community who have been in business, who started companies on their own, using their own resources, using different means to start these companies up. But what we're able to do now is inject a little bit more support in terms of finance and non-financial services. So I think the DIY is necessary, but more support and what different organizations can bring to the table is important. As Craig mentioned, ratios is really the key around financing. What is it that allows for us to open the risk aperture? How do we look at risk as a community and where we're going to be able to invest in companies? And what we're seeing with our program at FACE is that in developing how we would lend, we looked at what is our evaluation of risk and what is our ratios going to be adjusted to allow more Black entrepreneurs to have access to capital. So the process to applying to our program is very simple. On our website, we list out the different programs that we have. One, that we do finance startups, and the definition of startup at FACE. We finance existing businesses. We have a microloan program pilot that's happening in Ontario and BC, which allows lending between $10,000 to $25,000. We have a macro program that funds from $25,000 to $250,000 with our partners from the Government of Canada and the BDC. So in applying for the program, the eligibility criteria is also listed on our website in terms of the loan program, which means you have to have certain documents available for us to be able to assess your business. So your business plan is required, financial statements, financial projections for startups, as well as for existing businesses, a personal statement of affairs, which we provide the actual template to be used, to be completed, and your taxes. So it's very important to understand that these criteria or these eligibility criteria and these documents are required, along with the actual process of creating your application through our FACE portal, where you can register an account and answer questions, some that are mandatory related to your application and some that are not, and just allows for us to understand who Black Business Canada is so that we can continue to adapt our products as well as partnerships with different organizations to be able to support. This is the process in which you access funds to FACE. As I mentioned before, our program has been open for a year now, and we have approved over $19 million in loans to Black businesses across the country. This is a very big milestone for us at FACE, because building infrastructure and allowing us the opportunity to work with so many entrepreneurs in different sectors from different criteria to the way in which they run their business, whether they're startups or they're scale-ups, has been a really wonderful experience and dynamic for us at FACE. So ultimately, it's important to refer yourself to our website, also to be able to call to FACE, to be able to get some support to understanding what the eligibility criteria is and what you need to provide in order to go through the process of having your loan evaluated at FACE. And we are most proud of the fact that this program was designed with experts within our own community who understand the reality of Black entrepreneurs and Black Canadians. As Flex mentioned, there's a historical context that has to be taken into consideration in terms of assets, in terms of capital, in terms of being able to guarantee loans. These are factors that we have to consider that exist in the mainstream, but we have to look at how we can lend differently and be able to make impact for our community. And that has been the approach of FACE. How can we make these resources accessible to businesses, but ensure that we do the proper due diligence and give the proper support to ensure that this fund will continue to grow and be able to be reinvested into other businesses over time.
Thanks very much, Tiffany. You morphed into the second phase, but before that, I'd like to welcome Rosemarie Powell, a good friend of mine and a partner in the work that Rosemarie does at TCBN is incredible. So Rosemarie, if you could just give us an overview of TCBN and what it represents in terms of your role and the organization, and you can feel free to go into accessibility and eligibility criteria, and then we'll get Craig to expound on his scenario after you speak. So please welcome, put your hands together for Rosemarie Powell as well, please. Okay, hold on. You see, here's the deal. You guys are killing me right now. This sister and this brother, these sisters and this brother are doing some incredibly important work to support you and me, right? So when we say give it up for them, let's give it up, seriously. All right? My man, you okay? I don't see your hands moving though. Right? I'll call you out. We got to support each other because as much as you guys may not realize, when you hear, that can easily be transposed to your functionality as an entrepreneur. Right? If somebody is here right now, what is your Black Opportunity Fund? How many dollars? Overall dollars?
What? Well,
quick answer, Craig. Quick answer. Give me a dollar amount.
It's growing as we're talking.
Okay, what is it today?
We have pulled in, we've gotten commitments of about 30, 40 million.
30, 40 million. Tiffany, how many? How many dollars? How much in budget?
Were you speaking to me, Fred?
Yeah, yes, I'm just asking, FACE represents, give me a dollar value as it relates to FACE and loans and so forth.
So 160 million is our fund.
Okay.
And we've approved already 19 million.
Okay, so we're close to 200. And Rosemarie, the value of your work to the community, would you say is what dollar amount, please?
Oh my gosh, I would say it's the value to the community. I don't know, if we could at least get 10% of the multi-billions of dollars that are being spent in infrastructure, I mean, that would be just incredible, right?
Okay, so my question to the room is that worthy of, or, yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? We've got to be impactful in a reciprocal way. Right? These people are bringing impact to your lives and your businesses. Show some impact back. Please do. I'm not going to harp on it, but I'm going to say it at least once like that and maybe a few more times. Okay. So Rosemarie, the floor is yours to please share with us TCBN, what it represents and the impact to date, which I'm fully aware of. And I think these folks will be impressed by. Your floor is yours.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. It would be so nice to be in the room right now. I can just feel it. Listen, so thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but yeah, I'm glad that I got the opportunity to share the incredible work that we're doing with the Toronto Community Benefits Network. Our work is having impact nationally, which is absolutely incredible. And the Toronto Community Benefits Network has really grown into a Black-led, Black-focused, serving organization over the last, I think, 7 years since we incorporated. Just a minute, let me make sure that I don't have any distractions here. But yeah, the Toronto Community Benefits Network, we're a community labor coalition. We started in 2014. Looking at the incredible spend of our taxpayer dollars that was happening in infrastructure. Billions and billions of taxpayer dollars, for example, invested in the first Eglinton Crosstown LRT project in Toronto. $8.5 billion is a lot of money. There's not a lot of Black and minority-owned businesses that can actually compete for an $8.5 billion project. But there were 4 multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies that had to actually come together to be able to build that project. And so as community, who were living along this, corridor along the Eglinton Crosstown from the Mount Dennis community to the Scarborough, Kennedy, extension, we recognize that, we needed to make sure that the benefits that are coming out of this project can go towards some of the Black and racialized peoples, women and newcomers who live in those communities. Along Eglinton, there is like 12 different neighborhood improvement areas that were identified in Toronto as being communities that are highly racialized, that are dealing with issues of poverty on a day-to-day basis, and who just do not see themselves reflected in the infrastructure that is being built. And even though it's our taxpayer dollars, every time we go to work and 25%, 30% of your taxes come out of your salary, that's what it goes to for the most part. Infrastructure, spending on hospitals, schools, bridges, transit projects. And so through community benefits agreements, we negotiate using tactics that labor does. So with unions, they negotiate collective agreements for their workers. And so for the Toronto Community Benefits Network, we negotiate community benefits for people who live in those communities. We want to make sure that the jobs and the economic opportunities and the spin-offs that come out of these projects also benefit our community through good jobs while the project is being built, not when it's finished. So construction jobs. If you want to be a painter, a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, etc., we want our community to be able to work on those projects. And those are like good jobs. They start out right out of high school without, a university or college degree. You could be making $25 an hour. And every year, because these are good union jobs, they go up just naturally because a collective agreement was already negotiated. And, in the end, after a 5-year full-time position on these jobs, you could be making over $120,000 just like that. But then there are also the enterprising opportunities that come out of it. So we also, on top of the jobs, want to see that contracts are being broken down so that the small business owner can benefit from those jobs. Because you know what, on these projects, every construction worker has to eat. So there's opportunities for restaurants, for catering. There's printing that happens. There's all sorts of, spin-off businesses, that is supported through the construction industry. We don't really think about that as a community in terms of, creating businesses that are not, for example, and I'm going to be stereotypical thinking here, hairdressing or even, restaurants or whatever. We can get into businesses that supports the construction industry and get really good contracts coming out of it. So we also negotiate what we call social procurement, asking these major contractors who are multi-billionaires to basically break down those contracts so that you can have small businesses, minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses that can compete for those jobs. And on the Eglinton Crosstown project alone, over $8 million was actually spent in this way on local businesses and minority-owned businesses as a result of the community benefits agreement. And there are just so many projects that are happening across Canada, over $150 billion of taxpayer dollars being spent on projects all across Canada. If every single project has a requirement to have a certain percentage of their contracts broken down so that Black and racialized peoples can actually compete for those contracts, we're in a much better position. So that's where we need our support, and by the way, in Toronto, the Toronto Community Benefits Network is being led, and our members, there's 120 member organizations and groups. We have 10,000 supporters, and for the most part, there's a lot of Black leadership that is happening within the Toronto Community Benefits Network. And I encourage all our businesses to really understand what's happening there and get involved, and think about, as you're developing your business ideas, as you're growing or building capacity in your business, how can you look at the construction industry as an opportunity if you've never considered it before?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rosemarie. And I would add, just based on my personal experience with your organization, I like the aspect of readiness that you provide for young people and BIPOC individuals who want to enter into the trades, and the mentorship model, which allows journey persons who are representative of those cultures and genders to also lead and support young people to ensure that they're ready, or new people to the industry to ensure that they're ready for the next thing coming. And the other thing I would add is that it seems to be a natural progression out of working as a tradesperson or a journey person, evolving into a subcontractor and contractor. So there is an entrepreneurship relationship or relevance to the trades as well, just to keep things focused. Okay, so Craig, we talked initially about, in phase one, you gave us the description. Now I think the criteria and so on and so forth. That's just hard numbers. What do folks need to have represented both in their business plan, in their projections, in their fiscal, fiduciary sort of responsibilities and so forth, that will guarantee them, or at least give them a fighting chance in terms of the support that your organization provides?
Thanks for that. And it is because we're offering multiple different channels of funding, there's different eligibility criteria for all. So last year, for example, we did a granting program with funding from Facebook and Canadian Innovation Leaders Against Racism that was focused on entrepreneurs who displayed innovation. So across any sector, Canada-wide, just displaying significant innovation. And we were stunned. Everything from restaurateurs to health and beauty to gene editing to aquaculture to construction to automotive industry. Significant amount of innovation is happening in the Black community. And we are looking to roll out a similar program again this year. So that's a granting program, but it is competitive. This is not charity we're doing. This is an investment in businesses, in Black entrepreneurs who are paying their dues, who are coming up with significant ideas and are looking to develop their businesses. We will be shortly rolling out a granting program specifically for Black-led restaurants. That is going to be rolling out in the next 3 months, again, with a significant partner. So 75% Black led in terms of the business. Must obviously be a registered business, have financial projections, have been in existent, able to show sustainability over 2 to 3 years, have financial projections, be businesses in that under 50 employees. Okay. So that's a program that we're rolling out. In terms of the lending program that we're going to be offering, so Black Opportunity Fund is actually backstopping the lending. We are actually providing the collateral for the lending to make it easier to apply. And what we're trying to do is, and this is why we're having discussions, so talking with Ryan at ACBN about how we can collaborate with them, talking to Tiffany at FACE about where they fit within the funding ecosystem and where we are, how we support, talking to our banking partners about where they are in the lending. So we make sure that we are coming in. So we're looking, the sweet spot I think we're going to be looking at for our lending program is probably about 10 to 50,000. And then we will have a partnership. We're working on a partnership with ACBN, who obviously has their micro-lending program. Below that, FACE works in the space up to the 250,000, as well as the banks that we work with as well. So what we're making sure is that there is a progression all the way along, that there is something there for Black entrepreneurs, and that we can direct people where they need to be, right? So making sure you have a detailed business plan, because you need to be able to articulate your business, right? You need to be able to sell yourself. You need to be able to sell your product. And we are also providing the capacity building to develop that, help you develop your business plan. We are providing the capacity building to provide you mentorship, education on financial literacy, to help you do your develop your financial projections, your accounting, a marketing strategy, digital marketing strategy. So we have those programs available through our partnerships, and they're free. So take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And I'll go to your sports analogy. As I tell people think just because I run a little hustle in my basement, then I should get funding or this and that. Every time you step up, it's a different level, right? So if it's in basketball, anybody can go to the store and buy a basketball. That don't give you a right to play in the NBA.
That's right.
Right? You got to practice. You got to step to, and each level you step to, the requirements are harder. The competition is harder. So you have to do what you need to do. You need to invest your time on this, right? And one of the things that, for example, when we said, even with our program that we launched last year, our grant funding program, there was pushback. Why are you asking that it be a registered business? I'm like, if you can't invest the $80, $90 in your business and you're asking me to invest 25, 30, 50 in it, make an investment in your organization. Find out what you need to do from people who are in the space. Look at mentors who are in the space and successful. What do you need to do to get to the next level? Because there's always more you can do. You always have to be reinventing yourself as an entrepreneur because the environment changes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so give it up for Craig. So Craig obviously has a wealth of information to share, but we do want to get out before the NBA game tonight, so I'm going to cut him off at this point. He's a brethren. You guys get it. So the next question is, we have about 8 minutes left, and what I want to ask each of you is, what are the consistent deficits? If you could share 3 deficits that you're seeing when you cut across all applications that come in from the Black community, what are the 3 most the biggest deficits that you see from a qualification standpoint? So we'll go to Tiffany with FACE. Rosemarie, I know the context might be slightly different for you, but if you could just speak to the gap in readiness from a deficit standpoint, we'd love for you to share that as well. But let's go to Tiffany first. Right, if you could, what are the deficits you're seeing at FACE in terms of applicants and their readiness for prime time?
Thank you. I'm leaning in because I'm trying to hear, but I did hear the question. So I think ultimately the 3 major things that we see, and Craig alluded to it, is the strength of the actual documents that are used or presented to tell your story. So I'll start with that as being number 1. Your business plan is really your ability to speak to what your company does, what makes it different in the market, and why it's going to succeed. So I think that the presentation of a lot of the companies that have come through the pipeline, there needs to be support there, which leads to exactly what Craig is saying. There's plenty of organizations that have been financed by the government, different levels of government actually, to be able to support entrepreneurs to present a full business plan and their financials that are required, that demonstrates, again, their cash flow, the revenue that they've generated over the last couple of years, having your tax documents up to date. So the quality and the up-to-date nature of the documents by which you're presenting your application, we have seen challenges there, and we have to allow for entrepreneurs who are approaching it as a DIY situation, that there are resources now to help you to build your capacity and understanding of how to do that. This is why we've partnered with our founding organizations, as well as other organizations who will offer those services, as well as other companies like MNP and EY and Deloitte, where we offer workshops to help and begin to look at those elements and be able to give tools to work on those documents. The second thing that we see often, and this is to be very clear, that there will be a credit evaluation. We are going to look at your credit and your company's credit. We see often some challenges in terms of the credit history. So the score is one thing, and a lot of people focus on the score, and the score is taken into consideration. But what are the things that you've left unmanaged in your credit? So if there are payments that are overdue, or if you have things that are in collections, have you made arrangements to make those payments? Those are elements that we can that need to be managed and to demonstrate in your actual application that, yes, I may have fallen on a particular issue at a particular time, but I've got it at hand. I'm managing it. I'm making my payments to things that have been overdue on time. So I think that that is the second thing that we see often, is kind of an unmanaged credit history, where we're not saying that perfection is required, but definitely a handle on your credit and on your credit history, and remedying the things that are there, because they demonstrate your readiness to manage payments. You're applying for a loan. So that means that the expectation is that you will pay the loan back on time, and that tells a story, and you want it to tell the right story of who you are right now. The last thing that I would say that is very important, or one of the challenges, I don't like to use the word deficit. I want to say that these are challenges or capacity gaps that can be filled and addressed. We can learn whatever we need to get where we want to be. And I believe that. The last thing that I would say also is, when we look at how entrepreneurs are positioning themselves in the market. So that's kind of the business plan, but when we try to get an understanding of what is your vision of how you're going to surf the tide or stand out or grow your company, sometimes that process is a little bit challenging for entrepreneurs, meaning, and to be plain, they want to start a business, but you have to look at your capacity to start and how you're going to grow. And I think that there's gaps there in the conversations in terms of where you are, and how much reflection or how much information have you amassed to tell yourself or to tell others how you're going to ultimately grow your business. So then we know that you're able to sustain the loan. The only last thing I want to say before we go to Rosemarie and the capacity requirements on her side is that I think the main thing that I think the opportunity is that the community has is the ability to have that conversation with FACE or with Buff or with any of the organizations, ACBN. There's the shared lived experience that we have as Black folk, and we have now the opportunity to explain to each other what's going on. So our biggest mantra at FACE is ask why. It's not just a cold review of numbers and actual your application. It's what happened. And I think that understanding that life happens with all the barriers that we face, all the challenges that we face, here's the opportunity where someone can say, I understand what happens. There's a reason why Rosemarie can articulate so well what her program is doing, is because she understands the reality of the folks living in those neighborhoods and why they need opportunities and how that'll help our community on a grand scale. Craig as well, obviously articulating what is necessary to help businesses get on course and how we make sure that they're able to give their full attention to growing and starting these businesses. I think that that's really the opportunity that we have. So I think having conversations with the folks who have started these programs and work with these organizations would help us to help you to be able to put your best foot forward and to remedy some of the gaps that you have and be able to gain that capacity.
Thanks very much, Tiffany. Okay, Rosemarie, your turn and your words. Now we're very short on time now, so we'll just ask you for the truncated version of your perspective.
I'll keep it quick. Listen, one of the biggest thing is can't find you. So there's no presence online. In fact, one of our major general contractors, not too long ago, maybe 3-4 years, went to the federal government because we are now being required to have community benefits agreements on these projects, and they're required to do social procurement. But they basically said they couldn't find any Black contractors. So that's why TCBN was very, very, very active in helping to support the establishment of the Afro-Canadian Contractors Association, because we need to organize, we need to make sure that, we have a presence and they can find us when they need us. It'd be great to have a map or a directory listing across Canada of all the Black contractors. So even as a community, if we want to support our Black contractors, we can find them. Lack of follow-up, just to having that back-end administration. So fine, they found you. But then now there is no response, no active response. You don't have like someone who is dedicated to just taking care of the communications, sending whatever required paperwork's over, calling and having those meetings. A lot of the work that needs to be done in getting a contract is all of that sales work. on the back end. And then, of course, one of the major things that we always hear is just that the price is just not competitive. It's way more expensive than other companies that they would work with in general. And so, at the end of the day in the construction industry, it's about on time, on budget, safely. And so they're always very much budget conscious. And so having a company that can compete, around the same price as others is really good. You have to have some kind of a competitive advantage that you're offering.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
It's not a charity. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and Craig, if I could get a brief synopsis of the deficits that you've seen.
Ditto.
Ditto? Okay, that's the shortest.
Yeah. I think Tiffany's covered a lot there, as well as did Rosemarie. We're finding all the same things. I mean, that website, the web presence one, I mean, that was literally an argument we were having when we launched our granting program. I said, we're in the middle of a pandemic and nobody can find your organization. And it was, well, we can't afford a website. I said, a web presence. So we're funded by Facebook, and you can get a free Facebook page. You can get a free LinkedIn page, but at least it has a website, a phone number, so somebody can reach you. So if people want to find your business, can they find you? Something as basic as that, you're depriving yourself of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's give it up for our panel folks on the Trailblazing and Entrepreneurship. Again, my job is to inspire you. Real talk. How many people took notes during that panel? You're fibbing. I'm watching every one of you. Show me, okay, can I see your notes, please? There you go. You got your notepads. Show me the notepads, folks. All right. That's 5 notepads. Where are the rest of all the hands that were just up? This stuff can't go in one ear and out the other. And as you know, it'll pass through your brain on that journey, right? But you have to be able to retain this information. It's very valuable information. Okay, so let's do our best to take copious notes. Record. I believe recording is permitted. Ryan, you could verify that legally speaking, right? But I encourage you throughout the day, take as many notes as you can and review them, share them, whatever you need to do. Because it's not just about us in this room. We should all be telling one or more persons that we were here today and why they should have been here. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll see you guys a little later.